ladies and gentlemen, and welcome as Para-X presents Keeping the Spirits Alive. This is a show that represents a fresh perspective into the world of paranormal investigating and related topics, and how history plays an important role in keeping the spirits alive. This is your co-host, Chip Reichenfeld, and while we're preserving history one location at a time, I'm proud to introduce our host, founder of the renowned paranormal investigative team, Glory Haunt Hounds, Mr. Jaunt Tenney.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Keeping the Spirits Alive.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Oh, it's just another manic Monday.
It is. I like that music, that intro music. I wonder who did that.
I think that's BJ and the Affordables.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's Billy Joel's old band, I believe.
Yeah, actually, it's Victims of Retail.
Victims of Retail.
Victims of Retail.
Aren't we all victims of retail?
In a way, we are. It's one of those Unity songs, or at least the band's name is a Unity name.
Hey, we have a very weird guest for you tonight, folks.
Yes, it's Bizarro Land we're in.
Realms of the Weird.
Yes, the
broadcaster,
wonderful wizard of weird.
The wonderful weird lecturer, Jaunt Tenney, is with us tonight.
That's
awesome. Going to be awesome.
Yep.
Before we start our weekly segment and bring Mr. Tenney on, we're going to do, I just want to make a couple of quick public service announcements.
Yes, indeed.
This Saturday's the day, Chip.
It is. We're very excited about that. This is our last show before our live appearance on Saturday.
That's right. You can see us in the flesh.
Yes.
Wouldn't you want to see us in the flesh?
Oh, I would.
The Ghosts and Legends of Saratoga County and Beyond is this Saturday, October 20th.
Yep, at the Brookside Museum.
And Ballston Spa, New York, from 6:30 to 9 p.m.
It's going to be exciting. Oh, we've been looking forward to this.
It is. This is actually a total 100% fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
I won't even make toenail clippings off of this.
Yeah, the funds aren't for
the money
for us.
It's going back to the Saratoga County Historical Society.
Yeah.
With our good friend Reverend Tim Shaw as our headliner.
Yes, Para-X's own.
Absolutely. And we're going to be doing some spooky, cool, mostly true ghost stories.
Yes.
Followed by Reverend Tim Shaw with some actually very true ghost stories.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a very big special surprise, which will be announced probably in the morning.
Ooh.
So we've got a special guest that we're adding to the bill, I believe. So we hope to have that announcement for you tomorrow morning. So check Facebook. Speaking of Facebook, hey, Keeping the Spirits Alive has a brand new Facebook page. Did you know that, Chip?
I did know that. I came across it by accident, though.
If you go on, I know, I don't tell you anything. I'm bad. If you go to facebook.com/Keeping the Spirits Alive -on Para-X, just type Keeping the Spirits Alive. You'll find us on Para-X. And
you can join us on Facebook, and we can see more of you.
Absolutely.
You can hear more of us.
That's true.
In print that time.
Absolutely. So, anyway, I want to give a quick shout-out to a couple of new friends to Keeping the Spirits Alive.
Mm-hmm.
We met Miss Roberta today from Fort William Henry.
Oh, she was very cool.
She was very cool.
Yeah,
and
Fort
our old
William Henry. Yeah.
And the second time I've met my friend Fred Austin, who is an awesome dude with some great stories.
Great guy.
We should have more from those guys coming up soon.
I know. I miss them already. We had fun with them.
I know we did. So some big announcements for 2013 for Glory Haunt Hounds and Keeping the Spirits Alive. Stay tuned for details on those coming up. But you're going to be excited, because I know I am. At least I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
So anyway, without further ado, because we don't, I think Mr. Tenney may have actually said "the heck with you guys" and hung up on us.
But just in case, we've got some time to go.
So which is not a problem. I'll call him back. He had just gotten home, so no big deal. But I will give you Mr. Well, I want to introduce him properly. He is the T-Rex of Para-X.
Yes.
The Monday Night Delight. The Let's Not Skip Your Chip. Chip Reichenthal with Chipism.
Wow, well, that's a hard one to follow. Well, this is kind of the bizarre world Chipism, in honor of Jaunt Tenney. Well, last week we had 6 degrees of Chipism, a roundabout way to basically plug an amazing event that John Tobin and I have this Saturday night at the Brookside Museum in Saratoga County. Also featuring Para-X's own Reverend Tim Shaw, talking about the haunted history of Saratoga County and beyond. Tickets, although few, are still available for only $10 a piece. More on that later, or actually more on that before. But still, slightly continuing the 6 degrees of theme, and Since tonight's guest, I'm proud to say, is the marvelous Jaunt Tenney, I wanted to bring up something Jaunt Tenney's friend and last week's guest here, Johnny Hauser, brought up on Facebook that I think deserves further discussion. Johnny Hauser said how 20 years ago they were talking about things like ectoplasm and third eye for sensing spirits, and all things on today's paranormal shows. Well, are we better off now? And it was a good question, and it drew a lot of discussion, and since John Tobin and I have a show about stuff like that, perhaps my comment would mean something, or at least add to the discussion. My quick answer? Depends on what we're doing with what we have now, really. My point is that ectoplasm discussions came from theories based on hard work, and right or wrong, there was a lot of overall effort that brought people to that theory. Ectoplasm may sound silly nowadays, but many people, based on lots of research before computers came along, described things like green slime or white mists or an understanding of physics that has since changed, and theorized something based on what they had to use and principles that were accepted. Third eye talk, also based on hard work in my mind. Actually, I still agree with the third eye principle. The thought is your third eye chakra is an area between your eyes on your forehead that basically represents your mind's eye. Visualization, and can be enhanced with meditation techniques to help sense communication with spirit, among other things. At least that's a short definition. I used it, especially back in the day where I was having success as a medium or sensitive. What I had was based on hard work to get there, and trying to accept an unreal reality to stay there, believing certain things to separate them from imagination. More than 6 years now, trying to get that keen sense back, and I really don't know why I'm still stuck, but I have an idea. Back then I had a strong identity with a particular medium who helped me. Today, if I asked 15 different psychics or mediums their opinion, I'll likely get 15 different answers. People responding to Johnny Hauser's question offered similar answers. Today, people are competing more than sharing ideas. Unity in this industry is falling by the wayside, since if a person has an idea, it's either right or wrong. Teams are breaking up due to egos, faked evidence, too much competition. So maybe silly things like ectoplasm talk may represent a better day. Well, I will say this, and for the first and hopefully last time on this show, have a critical viewpoint. There may be lots on TV shows with different approaches, but they use accepted methods. Suddenly, I see people starting to use phone apps. Phone apps! For quick EVPs, for ghost radar. Ghost radar? Now, I don't want to see this field jump the shark, because a 4-year-old with an app can affect the same results we seem to get with hard work and research. Who needs to do it the hard way when there's an app for that? Anyone can be a paranormal investigator or a psychic if they have a smartphone, and that scares the hell out of me. I'd rather be wrong after 15 hours of hard work, research, and theory than appear correct with 5 minutes of pushing a button. I hope that scares some of you a little, too. I hope those of you listening will think, hey, aren't we all basically looking for the same things? Aren't we basically interested in the same goals and have a good sense of what it may take to achieve that? Here's a thought for you. Ghost hunter Steve Gonsalves, when asked recently what got him interested in our field, cited a book by the great Lloyd Auerbach. Steve, as youngster, actually met Lloyd Auerbach, his hero, and according to legend, Mr. Auerbach wasn't all that nice to young Stephen when they met. He didn't become defeated by the dejection because it was Auerbach's ideas back long ago that mattered. That was the 70s and 80s, too. Just today, I saw the amazing Fort William Henry and how times were in the 1770s. Think of this. In the 1960s, people worked very hard, and complaining meant you were weak. You respected your elders, went to church, did not talk back. Manners were respected. Chivalry was praised. Sex before marriage was not acceptable. Homosexuality wasn't even talked about. Racism was the norm. Bullying, too. Strong survived, and if you were outside the norm, you were outside looking in. It would seem silly to act like that today. But if you do good research and want to communicate with, let's say, spirits from the 1960s or before, you may be wise to keep in mind how people of the times thought. Do the work. It seems, since political correctness came along, things really changed rapidly, and we seem to assume that if that's the way it is now, that's the way it should be. Please, don't use phone apps as if they're the end-all. Please agree on common goals. Please, above all else, do the work. We need a sense of productivity back. We need a sense of fulfillment from a job well done, or our industry may go up in a cloud of ectoplasm. John?
Aha, very well said, Chip, and I couldn't agree with you more.
Oh, thank you.
I could agree with you more.
Well, you could.
But,
if you want to.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
When we were doing all this, we lost Mr. Tenney, but I can get him back real quick, so let's get him back, and then we'll introduce him to the show.
Yeah.
It should be just momentarily here.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about some weird stuff tonight, I can tell you that.
Yes, we are. It's kind of it's a bizarre world show,
Absolutely.
Hey. Oh, there he
Hey,
is.
John, are you back with us?
There I am.
Right.
You guys hung up on me when you muted me.
No, I think we muted you, and then I turned the volume down because the mute didn't work. And then it's you know what I mean? It's just set up to be a weird night.
Yeah.
So
It's always like that with me around.
It is.
See, how about that? I mean, that's right on topic, too.
So you just missed Chip's rant, which basically means you really didn't miss anything.
I was ranting.
No, I
was
good.
ranting.
He was ranting.
Little rant. I usually do very positive things because I like to bring a sense of positivity to our field. I don't think there's enough of it. But I actually got a little mean tonight. We're talking about working hard in our field as opposed to using these newfangled phone apps, which scare me a little bit.
So that said, here's an interesting start question. What is your opinion on phone apps in investigating?
Well, I'll tell you what. I will not name a specific app or apps or their designers, but I will tell you that I've spoken to a couple of people who have designed the apps that are in popular usage right now.
Okay.
And I will tell you right now, and this is a lot of times you won't hear anybody say this, but I'll tell you how they actually work.
Ooh.
What they do is most of the time they have an internal dictionary. They use the GPS systems inside of the phone, hooked up to things like Google Maps. And while you're using it, it actually looks at the area that you're in, according to Google Maps, and then generates words based on where it sees you being. So if you're in a cemetery, and it looks at Google Maps and sees that you're in a cemetery, it'll give you words like headstone. It'll give you words like grave. If it sees that you're in a historic building, it'll give you words that are related to that historical building. So, I mean, that's what these apps are really doing.
See, I love you even more than I did before I met you, man. That's beautiful.
What I will admit to that, and I think we can all agree on that is clever.
Wow.
That is clever, and I did not know that. And that supports what Chip was saying even more, I think,
Yeah.
Well, there's one app that actually is even a little bit more clever. Like I said, I won't use that one because it'll give away the person I talked to who designed it. But one of the apps is a little more clever in that it actually will randomly, when you're running the app, it'll randomly turn the microphone on, and it'll listen to what you're saying, and it'll draw from its dictionary, from what you're saying, words that are related to what you're talking about. So you might have it just running and casually talking about someone who died in the house, and it hears you keep saying a person's name over and over again, and it'll give you 3 or 4 words, and then it'll throw that person's name in because that's what you were talking about.
Wow, like I said, again, that's clever, and I think the key on it is for entertainment purposes only.
It is for,
and this is all kind of entertainment, right, to a point, to an extent. I mean, but, that it is interesting, and to me, that's still makes my head kind of boggled to think about how that can be done. But yeah, I mean, that explains a lot. When that does happen, I've even said a couple times, I don't have a lot of faith in this, but boy, those words that it just came out. We were in a building one time, and someone was using this app, an app. I won't say which one again, but it said fire, and the building had 3 fires. I'm sure at some point before that, when the app was on, we were talking about the fire. So there you go. That kind of supports what you just said.
And somebody on our chat room here just asked about the Ovilus. Personally, I do like that, and I know that there's a list of 2,000 words that are based on a particular change in the electromagnetic environment. It's based on at least scientific principles. I don't know if you have any insider depth into the Ovilus or not. I figure we could at least ask you.
Yeah, I don't have anything specifically on Ovilus. I mean, I know people who use them. I know people who love them. I know people that hate them. But specifically, I mean, again, we're dealing with these factors where you have ghosts or spirits, alleged ghosts, who may or may not have trouble manipulating a candle flame or pushing a ball across the floor, and yet they somehow or another can interact electromagnetically with an encoded chip inside of a system to make it say a certain word.
Well, I think the premise of the Ovilus, and I did a lot of research on that, was it really represents a change in the environment, especially electromagnetics. But if you have a word that on this schedule of 2,000 words is 80 words away from the last word you got, that's pretty significant. If you have a word that's 5 or 6 words away from the last word you got and has nothing to do with the question you asked, let's say, then that's just kind of a coincidence or just a specific small change in the environment. But there's been a couple of times when I've used them personally, and I really just wanted to say that the probability of us getting the words that answer a question or two in a way that no one else would know, there's something remarkable about that. And I will still say that Ovilus is really based on scientific principles, so I do have respect for that. Some of the industry's leaders question it sometimes, but at least acknowledge it before the things that we were talking about a moment ago.
So that said,
we haven't really asked you a question.
Yeah, John, that's an extension of the chipism there. But that said, John Tenney, thank you so much for being on the show this week. We like to think of you as an expert in all things weird, strange, and paranormal or abnormal. Now, you've been in this industry for quite a long time. Let me just ask you this, because I'm not sure of the answer to this. What really piqued your interest in all things paranormal? Was there a particular incident that happened to you, or where did it all begin?
For me, I have a kind of non-traditional story in this field, actually, because most people have a story about seeing a ghost or a spirit or something when they were very small, and that kind of created an influence that led to later life, and that really wasn't me. My history, the whole field, started with the fact that I was really good friends growing up with a conspiracy researcher.
Ooh.
And he specialized in the Kennedy assassination and political assassinations of the 1960s and 70s. And after working with him for many years, I'd always been fascinated by things that I was big in the punk rock scene, so I didn't like people telling me you could and couldn't do things, and it really drove me crazy when people told me that no one knew things. No one knew if there was an afterlife. No one knew if there was a God. No one knew if there were ghosts. And I don't do well with being told I can and can't do things, or I can and can't think things. And so I took all of the research methodologies and all of the ways to research that I'd learned from my mentors and applied them to those fields that it didn't seem were as many people actually trying to do some real hardcore research in the field, which includes ghosts, UFOs, cryptozoology.
And of all those things you mentioned, ghost, crypto, UFOs, do you have a preference, or do you like them all equally?
They each appeal to a different part of me. I think that for as long as I've been interested in weird things, UFOs have always been closest to my heart. But over the years, I've been involved probably with more hauntings and haunted locations, so that's probably what I have most experience in. But, of course, being an animal lover, it appeals to so many different parts of me. I love Bigfoot, and I love Loch Ness Monster and giant birds. So,
see, my wife loves that stuff too. How about your first? You mentioned your first love with the conspiracy theories. Are you still engaging with those much?
Absolutely. I consider myself not so much of a paranormal researcher, but kind of like a folklorist and a historian. And so conspiracies will always be a big part of what I do, just in the sense that, even if I'm talking about the Kennedy assassination, there will be people who want to know if he was killed because of what he knew about UFOs. So, and I've always believed that what we're researching, whether it be ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs, I've always felt that it's a combinatorial field, that we may be experiencing the same things, but we're calling them different things because our language is so limited.
Wow. Nice viewpoint.
I actually had a theory that Bigfoot lived on a UFO because he was afraid of ghosts, but I don't know. I just kind of intertwined those all together. That's what out there.
Hey, if Big Bird lived on a UFO, we'd all be in trouble.
Then we would all be in trouble, exactly. So, having, I don't even know where I was going with that, but, doing your weird lectures and talking about all these sorts of different things, I would just wanted to ask, I forgot what I wanted to ask.
Never talk about Big Bird around.
Yeah, as far as, crypto, when we talk to people about cryptozoology, it seems like it's always Bigfoot, 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 and then there's always Bigfoot. I think there's so much more to the field of cryptozoology than that. I mean, so many legends out there, like you mentioned, Loch Ness and Chupacabra and things of that nature. But so few people, I think people talk more about Bigfoot because there's been so many supposed and, perhaps real Bigfoot sightings out there. Have you ever experienced anything in the crypto field, besides Bigfoot that you questioned or thought maybe supported some of the theories that these things exist?
Or even Bigfoot?
I mean, I've never experienced, I've never seen an unknown cryptid, but one of the things that I talk about sometimes at my lectures is if you talk to anthropologists, if you talk to zoologists about something like Bigfoot or sea beasts, some kind of sea serpent, they'll tell you, for Bigfoot, to have a viable Bigfoot population worldwide, you may need anywhere from like 50 to 70,000 of them. Well, in Michigan, we have 6 million deer, and my family have been hunters for years and years and years. There are many times when my family goes to hunt and they don't see a deer. We have 6 million of them in Michigan, and they don't see one. And so if you have a population of Bigfoot that are 50,000 worldwide, and they're migratory, or they bury their dead, or they're trying to stay away from you, it's going to be very, very difficult to see these creatures.
Yeah, or it is also possible that all the deer in Michigan knew that Chip here was driving on the New York State Thruway, and they all migrated to New York so they could stand in front of my friggin' car at 4 o'clock in the morning.
It could be. That very well could be. And on the topic of UFOs, that's something that I've always been fascinated with. Do you have a theory on, say, Area 51? That's always been an area of fascination for me.
Ooh.
I've been to Area 51. I was actually pulled over because I drove off the road and tried to get as close to it as I could, and the military turns you around and takes you back and checks your ID. But I've always felt that Area 51 was probably, obviously it's a top secret and it's a secured military area no matter what's going on there, so you're not supposed to go there. But with it being so well known, there's probably not anything going on there anymore. Area 51 was probably most active when no one knew about it. But now when you have hundreds and hundreds of documentaries on it and people go there every night, and they have been for the past 20 years, there's probably nothing there anymore.
Yeah. Or they're hiding it in plain sight now. But somebody mentioned one of the shows, there's too many shows on, but somebody mentioned either New Mexico, I think it was somewhere in New Mexico now that they might have moved it to.
Have you heard that they may have moved Area 51 because everybody was onto it, so then they've changed the location, so these experiments or whatever they may have been doing there are continuing but in a different location?
Yeah, it's weird too because I always have to try and look at things from, with the government especially. If the government lets you know what their technology is, they're usually anywhere from like 20 to 30 years ahead of it. And one of the questions I've asked UFO researchers is, if they had UFO technology, let's say starting in the 50s or 60s, and they were testing it out, don't you think it would be at a point now where they could cloak their secret hiding base, where they wouldn't be seen by people, just casual passersby, wouldn't see this technology testing anymore? If you were flying and had anti-gravity devices 50 years ago, then by now you should have some kind of cloaking device to not be seen by people around. So, if they are testing stuff, I'm probably pretty sure that we wouldn't know where it's at and what they're doing.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm sure of that. I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with conspiracy theories, because that, in essence, without proof, is now a theory.
Taking it one step further, and again, Facebook today, somebody mentioned about people who have claimed to have had encounters or abductions. Have you dealt with that at all, and how do you feel about that per se? Because the question actually came up today.
With alien abductions, the thing that interests me is kind of what I said just a little bit ago, which was the explanation of this field being one thing. Because when I would do, there weren't a lot of ghost events and conferences. Now there's one every weekend, but there weren't a lot back in the late 80s and early 90s. They were mostly metaphysical conferences, and you had ghost lecturers and UFO lecturers. And one of the things that I came across very, very commonly back then was everybody had abduction experiences. Those experiences are really close to what we now call possession. You have old hag syndrome happening, so you have sleep paralysis, you have balls of light in the house or flashes of light, you have shadow people. That was originally, alien abduction. Now, because of either the way it's portrayed in television or on popular media, those experiences are now called possessions. or hauntings. So again, I think it's very interesting. If you limit yourself to just being interested in ghosts, I think you're missing a much broader picture of what we may be experiencing.
Which goes to your point that you made earlier about how our language is limited, and so that's you look at things in a different way because of that.
Absolutely. It's like when we say possession in the United States, everybody conjures up these images of The Exorcist and the horrible demons that we see on television. But yet, like in Tibet, in Tibet, every year the Dalai Lama sits down with 3 oracles who are people that become possessed by some other spirit, and they give him information that's totally accepted. It's not something to freak out about. It's not a demon. It's a spirit that helps guide the people of Tibet. So again, like you said, it's the limiting of language and the limiting of our ideas as to what possession is. Channeling has been going on for hundreds of years, back to the foundations of psychical research in the 1800s. People were allowing spirits of their body to talk to them. That's a form of possession. So when you say possession, you have to have specificity with what you're talking about and who you're talking to about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent point.
Definitely an excellent point. And kind of regress a little bit here, but I once dated a girl who had old hag syndrome, but that's another story for another day. Just wanted to mention that. I thought of that when you were mentioning that.
That happened to you too, huh?
It did. Going back to ghosts for a second, I did want to mention or ask you, you're one of the prominent paranormal researchers from the Michigan area, and we talk a lot on Keeping the Spirits Alive about preserving history and some of these great historical locations that may or may not have claims of the paranormal. Are there any particular locations that you've been to? It doesn't have to be Michigan. I just brought that up because that's where you're from. But that locations that are near and dear to your heart that every time you get a chance to go there and investigate or just be there, that you really look forward to.
Again, I love history. I love doing historic research, and we have in Detroit actually an enormous military fort. It's Fort Wayne in Detroit, and a lot of people don't even know it's there. It's like a 94-acre fort. All of the buildings are intact. There's underground sally ports. It's a beautiful location on the river. It's actually taken care of by a group called Metro Paranormal Investigations. They're the ones who kind of upkeep it and make sure it's running and do stuff to raise money for it. It's a great, great place. I've never had any haunting experiences there, but they have had many, so they've told me. But I think just in order of the building and the size of it and the entire grounds, it has one of the last Indian burial mounds on its property that's actually in Detroit.
Ooh.
And it's just a great, great historic place.
That sounds very cool. I've heard a little bit about Fort Wayne, and I've heard some of those people talking about some of the cool experiences they've had there. And we actually are reaching out to a lot of these great old military forts. Have such energy levels. I mean, even if you don't have that experience, I think you'll agree when you walk in there, it just feels completely different than any of these other locations. Just because so many people have been in and out of there, and with the purpose they served, throughout history. It's just an amazing level of energy you feel.
Yeah, it's palpable. You can feel it.
Absolutely. And one of the things that interests me is if we always talk about the residual energy left over by ghosts. You always hear people talking about, that's a residual spirit. Well, if we really are dealing with energies that can be left over when a person dies, we have to be open to the idea that energy can be left over by people who are alive. And so if you have, like in Fort Wayne and the fort in Detroit, that was used during the Vietnam War, and people had to go there and register for the draft. And just imagine the amount of, psychological energy, the outpouring of knowing that you were going to go to war, that you might die, and, just filling those places up. If energy can be left over, it probably can be left over by humans just as well as it can be by humans that have passed away.
Absolutely agree. Chip's own weird theory has to do with, we've got brains that are processing neurochemical transmissions, which are, there's electricity there. There are chemicals there. The environment is electromagnetic. But if you have some sort of incident that is life-changing or life-threatening, then that's got to leave some sort of, almost like a camera takes a picture. I mean, it's got to leave some sort of flash there in the atmosphere for all time,
absolutely.
living or dead.
Well, and that's one of the things too that I bring up with you have these haunted locations that have, kind of become attractions, huge places like Waverly Hills and Bobby Mackey's and stuff like that. And one of the things that, again, I find really interesting is that as more and more people go there, as more and more people investigate, and people are there almost every night, and people are there every weekend, and these places seem to become more and more haunted. And my question has been, is it the spirits or alleged spirits of those places, or is it the energy left over from the investigators going in there constantly?
Yeah, or a combination of both, or both feeding off of each other and magnifying.
I've always found schools to be a fascinating place, and again, most schools
John
aren't
loves
associated.
schools.
They aren't associated with death usually.
No, but a lot of emotion.
Thousands and thousands of people in emotion and energy, and I always found that to be an interesting location. I always try to seek out places that are not legend, not rumored to be haunted, to see what kind of what you find there. Sometimes you find at those locations, John. I don't know if you have the same experiences, but I find you get a lot more. Sometimes you get a lot more results there than the places that have been saturated with paranormal investigation.
Well, sure. That's the thing, too, about, when people ask where's a haunted location that I can go to, and, my kind of stock answer to that is if you believe that each human potentially can become a ghost, and you look at the fact that since human beings have existed, there have been 50 billion deaths on this planet, the most haunted place you can go is this planet. Like, if there's 50 billion, potentially 50 billion ghosts on this planet, that means that we're surrounded at all times, and you don't have to drive 17 hours to get to a place that's haunted.
Yep, I agree, man, with you.
People tell me all the time, someone died in my house. You know what? If your house is over 70 years old, someone has probably died in it.
Yeah,
and
true.
it's just a fact of life and death that houses are transferred through owners and families, and someone's probably died in it at some time in the past.
Yeah, and add to that, we were talking earlier in the Chipism, Steve Gonzalez from Ghost Hunters mentioned in a Q&A that I saw, somebody asked who inspired him, and he mentioned Lloyd Auerbach and his book Sixth Sense. And basically, he also proposed, Lloyd Auerbach did, that some hauntings are actually some sort of psychokinetic energy from the people in the household that expect something to happen. It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy that brings itself to great psychomagnetic proportions where it's the people's minds that are actually moving these things around. So if you add that to the energy from the living, the energy from the dead, the energy from the living and the dead, the energy from all the people experiencing life-altering things, and add Lloyd Auerbach's philosophy about psychokinetic haunting, then wow, anywhere you go, we're good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we're surrounded at all times.
So, speaking of, John, of realms of the weird and some of the cool things that you have coming up, well, I know October is a busy month. We mentioned real quick that, it's like Christmas here for the paranormal. So, what are some of the cool realms of the weird and lectures and events you have coming up that people can come out and see you, meet you at?
Where can we see you, man?
On October 25th in Michigan, there's a restaurant called Omara's, and I'm doing a lecture. People can come in and have dinner. There's no cover charge for it. I try and do that as much as possible. In this day and age, when you have events that are, $250, $150, $300, it's just, I find it somewhat mind-boggling. I've done this for many, many, many years, and never expect to make any money off it. It's about exchanging ideas with people and constructing ideas with people. And so I try and do as many events like this one at Omar's in Michigan on the 25th, where you can just come in. If you want to have a drink or dinner, that's fine. If not, if you just want to sit and hear the lecture, that's fine too. So I'm doing that. And then on November 3rd, I'll be in Winchester, Virginia, doing a lecture there. Actually, this weekend, I'll be at a horror movie convention doing a lecture on the differences between how the paranormal is portrayed in movies and what it's like to actually be a paranormal researcher.
And where is that going to be this weekend?
That's in Flint, Michigan. That's the Flint Horror Convention.
That's worth.
So we actually recommend anybody that can't make it to our event on the 20th.
Yeah, on the 20th
to go to the Flint Horror Convention. That actually would be cool. We actually heard some folks speak recently about the parallels between what is perceived as paranormal from the Hollywood and the movies and what is realistically paranormal. And so I would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah,
briefly.
we saw a good example in that movie, Please Talk With Me, we saw a screening of it locally, and hopefully you get to see it if it comes near you, because this was about a real-life, actual haunting that took place to a poor young kid who was a very gifted student in 1985, and he had really virtually nowhere to turn to. He was on an island. But the way they did it, they didn't Hollywoodize it. They didn't make it all effects laden, and they didn't go for the eye candy or the all the emotional thing. It was just very well. It was crafted so well. It would really dot an I or cross a T for you if you had a chance to see that one.
And speaking of that, I mean, do you think that, and the Chip's point, I believe, is that this movie was portrayed in a very realistic manner and not Hollywoodized, and it can still be done, but few and far between. I happen to be a fan of these paranormal movies for an entertainment purpose, but I think too often folks look at that and think that's what it's really like.
Yeah, it starts to stereotype.
So, in short, obviously you're going to be talking about this at the convention, but what is your opinion? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing what Hollywood does?
I think I've actually, my ideas always hopefully evolve and change. And at one time, it was really great. I thought that what was happening, especially with the rise of paranormal shows, I thought it was a really great thing because what it did was it was sparking people's curiosities. It was allowing people to speak openly about their strange experiences, and that can't be a bad thing because we're starting to create dialogues with each other. Unfortunately, I think that when the market becomes so saturated, eventually what you see happening is people watch a television show and think that that's all there is to it. And so all of a sudden their thought is limited because they don't want to do something that someone on the television show didn't do because that's not how you do it. And, a lot of times you'll see people saying, like, well, I've never seen anyone do that on a television show, or I've never seen anyone do that in the movies.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it starts to become a hindrance, because when people think you can only do it the way they did on a television show, or that's the only way it's done, because that's how I saw in this documentary, that's where we're hindered in our research, and we have to be open for anything, to do anything and try anything, because literally no one's right and no one's wrong. When we talk off air about drama in the paranormal field, one of the things I try and tell people all the time is I've never really understood the fighting because
right.
No one in this field is right and no one is wrong. We should be able to openly discuss all these ideas without fear of retaliation.
Oh, I wish you'd heard my opening segment. Yeah, that was
I think that if there's the paranormal drama happens to continue, we're going to have Jaunt Tenney put all these people in a timeout.
Yes, but at least we get together with Jaunt Tenney. That we have to do first.
That's true.
It's just we all have the same goal, really. I mean, we're all in for the same purpose. Why do we have to split hairs?
We all just want to know why this stuff exists, if it exists, what does exist, what's real, what's not real. I mean, it's all I always find it funny when a team goes into a location and then they've been there a few times and they've become friends with the owner or whatever, and suddenly it's their place. And if anyone else wants to investigate there, it's like, what are you doing? You're investigating on our turf. It's like, it reminds me of the movie The Warriors. Come out and play, yay. It's got
Paragang War.
Paragang Wars. Yeah, somebody's going to come with a bat and come knock us down. Because we want to go investigate in their building. So, it's almost it's comical, but it's almost getting to that.
My ghost is going to mess you up.
Yeah, my dad, my ghost dad can beat up your ghost dad. Hey, so one thing I wanted to mention that we haven't mentioned yet, you did a stint on Paranormal State, the new class, which I thought was really cool. Right. And I wanted to ask you what it was like to work with the group out of Indiana and mentor them and help them along. That must have been quite a cool experience.
Yeah, it's strange for me. My first foray into television came back in the early 90s when I worked on, if you remember the show Unsolved Mysteries. That was
we
kind
love
of
that show, yeah.
My first foray into television was doing research for that television show. And
good for you, brother.
And I stepped away. I had bad experiences with producers, and so I stepped away from it for many, many years. And then a few years ago, I was contacted by A&E, and they said, we have this new team, and Ryan and his team are leaving. Would you, like to mentor them? And I said, absolutely, for sure. And after they saw how we talked and communicated, and I became friends with them. They said, do you want to be on camera? And I said, I guess for sure, but here's my ground rules because I've had bad experiences with television. And I said this at lectures, and I have no problem saying this. And if it comes to lawsuits, whatever. But when we were filming an episode, I was explaining to a family, this is possibly what could be happening into your house. And I had someone pull me aside and say, can you tell them that there's a demon in their house? And I said, absolutely not, and I'm done. And I was, as soon as that starts to happen, as soon as that influence makes its way onto any set, you have to make that decision. Are you going to have respect for yourself and for your community and what you're doing, or are you going to go for $1 and try and make people scream? And I would much rather have people believe what I say than, be able to buy an extra milkshake.
Hey, without sounding condescending, I am completely proud of you, and I, as a human being in this field, thank you for making that decision.
Yeah, I was on a recent episode of My Ghost Story where I looked like a big sissy and ran out of the hotel and did it for if I could have changed it and gone back, I probably would have done it differently. But, for me it was all in fun. It was to try to sell rooms for the hotel. So hopefully anybody that knows me will know this. But if it was an ongoing show and my integrity was on the line, I hope that I would have made the same decision you made, and I do applaud you for that as well. Because it's not easy, I don't think it's... Go ahead.
And a lot of people don't understand, like, when you sign a contract for a repeating show, like, you give over your rights to anything that you say can be edited anyway.
Yeah.
So,
they've got you.
If you,
Yep.
Yeah, so if you say, I was really scared to eat a hamburger, and then later on in the day you say, like, I'm not going to say that there's a demon on the shirt, they can edit that so that it says, I was scared of that demon, and then they just show you in a far shot with your back to the camera, and it sounds like you're saying it.
Yep, for the studio audience, right.
Definitely.
It's definitely manipulation at its non-finest.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You've definitely experienced throughout the years, I'm sure, a whole bunch of different weird activities. And since the subject of the show is weird, is there an incident in your paranormal career? It could be anything, ghosts, UFOs, anything that stands out to you as just being the weirdest.
It's strange because when an experience is happening, that's the weirdest thing that can be happening, and then another one happens, and that's the weirdest thing that can be happening. As soon as an experience is over, you guys know as well as anyone, when it's happening to you, it's completely real. But 3 days later or 30 seconds later, you start to analyze it. You try and resolve it in your mind and move it away. But in the late 90s, and I've only talked about this for maybe 5 or 6 years now, but in the late 90s, I was asked to assist with Vatican-sponsored exorcism. It was when the Vatican does an exorcism, you need a disinterested third party. You need someone who's not a Catholic to be in the room to act as an insurance agent. You kind of watch to make sure there's no impropriety that goes on. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, was probably the weirdest thing that I had ever partaken in.
That would be pretty weird.
Yeah.
So
do it for me.
That brings up a question. We've got time for about one or two more questions here, and then we'll let you go. But
regretfully,
yes, absolutely regretfully. But so you were involved in this Vatican exorcism. Now, what is your opinion on exorcisms and demons? I mean, if as a non-religious person, do you find validity in demons, or do you just find perhaps malevolent spirits, or is there a distinction to you?
I think that what I experienced and what I was watching, I'll tell you what, I can break my NDA with A&E, I don't mind that, but I have one with the Vatican too. That one worries me a lot more. But I will say, the Vatican has way more money than A&E. But
that's true.
I will say that, there's a certain amount, obviously the person goes through rigorous psychological and medical and biological testing to make sure that there's no chemical imbalance around drugs, none of that. It means the Vatican, they are very strict and stringent about what they will and will not do. Mm-hmm. And I have no problem in saying that there are things that I don't understand. It doesn't mean that I believe them, but it means that the experiential world that I'm in right now contains components of reality that I do not fully understand. And watching that exorcism was part of that, not understanding what was going on. Because it really did seem as if an alternate person or being or entity had consumed a person's mental makeup. And when the exorcism was over, that person was restored fully to who they originally were.
Right.
Oh, I couldn't imagine what it was like.
I know, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, that'd be an experience that, if I was in that situation, I would certainly. I think it would be more I'd be more equipped to want to witness it than actually to have to try to deal with it, because I'm not sure I'm equipped to go through that, but that would be fascinating. So before we let you go, John, can you let the listeners out there just let them know where they can find out more information about you and your upcoming lectures and events, and just anything Jaunt Tenney in general.
Sure. Weirdlectures.com. I have a podcast called realmoftheweird.com. They can go to that, or they can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/weirdlectures. If they just Google search John E.L. Tenney, I'm sure something will pop up somewhere that they can get a hold of me. I'm not that hard to get a hold of. I don't respond in a very timely manner, but...
No, but I will say, as someone who follows you on Twitter, I've followed you longer than I followed Harvey Levin on TMZ, so that says a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's an honor,
That
man.
says a lot right there.
We
for
are
Chip.
actually
That's
bowing
his
to
hero.
you as we speak. But that being said, just following John E.L. Tenney on Twitter, you get a lot of information, because you do give a lot of information about your sites and what your activities and stuff like that. So.
And some little funny cartoons every now and then.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very
I've
funny.
got a pin to prove it. The very fun contest.
Yeah, he's got a button, and
Absolutely. Chip's very jealous.
But
so.
I've followed you on Twitter
I
longer
told him
than
he can
has,
get one if
so
he wins the contest.
I think
but
I win.
I'm not giving him mine, that's for sure. Mr. Tenney, thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful Halloween season.
Yeah.
And we definitely hope to talk to you again sometime.
Yes,
This has been
really,
a lot of fun.
we sure hope that we can do that someday, because that would be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I loved it. I love laid back, relaxed, and I love hearing laughter during these shows.
Well, that's us.
Yeah, thanks for
Thanks
giving
so
us
much
a
for taking
lot
the time out of your
to
busy
have
schedule.
Fun with. We appreciate it.
Have a great night.
Yeah,
Talk to you later.
John.
Thanks a lot.
We
Bye-bye.
bow to you, man.
All right, well, that said, we're going to have a very brief station break, and we will be back in just a moment with our Jaunt of the Week,
And
right
still,
after this.
Still bowing to.
ParaX Radio presents Real Persons of Genius.
Real persons of genius.
Today, we salute you, Mr. and Mrs. ParaX show hosts,
Mr. and Mrs. ParaX show hosts.
armed with nothing more than a laptop and a microphone. You hit the air to scare the bejesus out of your audience.
What the hell was that noise?
Like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant, you always whet our appetite for more.
I just can't get enough.
Whether it's witches, ghosts, fairies, or Bigfoot, we admire your ability to set aside reality and believe anything anyone tells you.
Seek professional help.
So the next time you're kneeling in front of your 8x10 glossy of Dave and Tom lighting a candle, remember, if it wasn't for you, I might be able to sleep without the lights on.
Mr. and Mrs. ParaX show hosts.
ParaX Radio Network. Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making ParaX part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, ParaX.
Join us as we present Ghosts and Legends of Saratoga County and Beyond. This is a fundraising event for benefit of the Saratoga County Historical Society. On Saturday, October 20th, from 6:30 to 9 p.m. at the Brookside Museum in Ballston Spa, New York, featuring the Reverend Tim Shaw of ParaX's The Black Cat Lounge, presenting chilling tales of New York State haunts. Included also is a presentation by Glory Haunt Hounds of the Ghosts and Legends of Saratoga County. We are also featuring spooky storytelling by horror author Miranda Zerfler. All of this for just $10. Get your tickets now at www.gloryhaunthounds.com. Again, Saturday, October 20th from 6:30 to 9 p.m. The Ghosts and Legends of Saratoga County and Beyond, featuring the Reverend Tim Shaw and John and Chip from Keeping the Spirits Alive. Get your tickets now, just $10 at www.gloryhaunthounds.com.
Hi, this is PJ Souls, and you're totally listening to Keeping the Spirits Alive with John and Chip on the Para X Radio Network.
Hey, and with that, we are back.
PJ, our personal friend.
I will be doing a show on Broadway, Rocky Horror Picture Show. You can also catch with details coming up.
He's going to impersonate more people while slaughtering farm animals in the background.
That said, we are going to be introducing Courtney with our Haunt Jaunt of the Week. I wonder where she's going to take us this week. What do you think, Chip?
Outstanding. We are Morocking the airwaves here with Courtney Morocco.
I want to rock and roll all night. Hey, Courtney. How's it going? How are you?
Good. How are you guys? I love it. What? I didn't know I was going to get serenaded tonight.
Oh, yeah. You never know what's going to happen with us, right?
Yeah.
We're just in a weird
awesome.
mood with John
right.
Tenney and, Realms of the Weird and weird lectures and all that stuff. So
I don't think Gene Simmons is going to sue us for
no, probably not. So where is our Haunt Jaunt this week, Courtney?
I thought I would talk about when I went to Alcatraz about a month ago.
All right. Nice.
Very cool.
And they actually let me back out. No.
Wow.
Well, that's they wouldn't do that for me, I'm sure. So.
That's right.
I don't think so either.
No.
Just kidding. I don't. Have you guys ever been out there?
No.
I've been. No, I have not.
I wanted to go to Golden Gate Bridge until the last time you were on the air.
Yeah.
And said there more people jumped off that.
Now he's just going to jump off a local bridge that's much smaller.
Yeah, we want to put Albany on the map here, So.
Oh no.
But anyway,
Kidding, I'm not.
Courtney, here, jump in anytime you want. And we'll get Chip to be quiet. I can mute him.
Okay.
I can
hard
pull
to
his
do.
plug at any
Last time I
time.
was depressing, but this time it's not so depressing. I don't know.
Okay, well, it's
Alcatraz was super interesting to me because even though I know it has so many ghost stories associated with it,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it had been part of the whole Civil War. There'd been, my words are failing me tonight. Sorry.
The history, predates the prison. Yes.
Yeah, and that then even after the prison, then some Native Americans, I guess when it had closed, then they went over to take control of the island and say that it was theirs. So there was some additional history about the island that I didn't know about, that I learned when I went. And the thing that was really curious to me was I also didn't realize that the guards and their families lived on the island. So they had a whole section about life for the children on the island and how they would take a ferry boat across to San Francisco to go to school, and that was their school bus every day. And
talk about living your job, right?
Yeah, it was very, and they didn't really see the inmates, but they didn't feel afraid, or they just would play in the yard, and not the prison yard, obviously. They had their own separate yard, but it was very interesting.
Oh, I believe that. I heard that nowadays you can hear spirits do very bad Nicolas Cage impersonations if you walk there in the right time of night.
What about Sean Connery? Wasn't he in that movie?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but it's hard to do a bad Sean Connery impersonation,
Well, I could probably do a bad one, but I'm not going to embarrass
Especially
myself.
thanks to what Celebrity Jeopardy or what? Yeah.
We wouldn't ask you to embarrass yourself. It's bad enough you have to come on this show every other week.
That's right,
No,
Trebek.
I
You'll
love
never
coming
have
on
it
with
again.
you guys.
So, as far as a haunt jaunt's concerned, so people can go to Alcatraz, right? And they can actually get not only regular tours, but I believe they do ghost tours there as well. Is that correct?
I think they do ghost tours also. We weren't able to do a ghost tour. I actually have some advice for anybody going to Alcatraz. Get your tickets as soon as you know you're going to go to San Francisco.
And make sure they're round trip too, right? Or you'll be with the kids on that island there.
And especially if you go in the summer and early fall months, because we lucked out getting our tickets. They had been sold out for weeks, and we just happened to get some. I mean, I don't even really know. Our concierge at our hotel somehow had a connection and did us up right. So
boy, that's a good concierge too, right there.
What's that?
That's a good concierge, too, if he could get you tickets at this time of year.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, wow, because I didn't even, somebody else had warned me about them. I thought, oh, we could get tickets, no problem. And no, I mean, it was a problem.
You didn't name drop John Tobin and Chip Reichenthal, did you? Because that would probably
Shut up.
Then they'll keep you on the island.
That would definitely not get you tickets. Just letting you know.
All the kids on the school bus, will laugh at you.
Oh, no.
You mentioned John and Chip. What's wrong with you?
But it was insanely interesting. And the other thing is our ferry tickets, because you have to go at a certain time, and it's very structured. And our tickets weren't until 3:20 in the afternoon, and that was not enough time. The last ferry out is like at 6 or 6:20, something like that. And we did the audio tour of the cell block, but I didn't get to see the gardens, which are pretty neat, that the inmates, I guess, had tended to at once upon a time. And now there's other groups involved in, the island's restoration and preservation that tend to these gardens still. We didn't even have time to see that. We just had to hurry up and finish with our audio tour and then run back to get a seat on the ferry.
At least with the audio tour, you probably heard some bad Nicolas Cage impersonations, right?
No!
Wow. Unbelievable.
Oh, no, I didn't hear any of this.
Wow.
But I did, and then the other thing, I didn't make note of, like, all the haunted places within. I kind of didn't want to in some respects, because I wanted just to feel the place myself.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get to do a ghost tour, and I'm sure that would be insane, because it's a very cool island prison.
Yeah.
There's lots of dilapidated, like, ruins of buildings over there. You don't get to go in them, obviously, but the prison's actually pretty well preserved.
Yeah.
But there was some kind of a house. It must have been the warden's house at one time, and it was sort of burned out. Really cool pictures that I got.
I'd love to be able to just go there so I could say I'd been to a prison that I wasn't required to go to. That would be great. It's first time for everything.
I'd go there so I could do my bad Nicolas Cage impersonation. I really needed the process.
Hey, and Chip, if you go to a haunted prison, you might actually get your butt pinched like you've been waiting for.
Oh, I know. But that's for another show entirely.
That's true.
I was trying to get through one without the butt.
I couldn't let it go. We were talking about prisons and hauntings.
That's true. Prisons, with my butt, yeah.
Well, I don't even know. I'm not going there.
Well, I hope not.
Yeah, that's true. Courtney, hey, thanks again. We're almost out of time. Do you have how would you like to close it out? Close us out with some little tidbit from Alcatraz.
I think we got her speechless.
I don't know how I can follow up with the butt pitching.
Well, we really do appreciate that.
I didn't get my butt pinched, and there was no Nicolas Cage. So Alcatraz was, I thought it was great until I talked to you guys. But
very cool.
Yeah. That'll do it to awesome, just about anybody.
So I guess needless to say, you highly recommend anybody that gets a chance to definitely do the Alcatraz tour, and if they can, do the ghost tour as well.
Or at least that hotel concierge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They could ask your hotel concierge if you can get tickets, and it should be great. I bet you they're doing some cool things this time of year too. So definitely give them a call. Call ahead of time though.
Yeah.
Well, that said, we're just about out of time, Court. I do thank you so much. We'll talk to you again in a couple weeks with your next Haunt Shot of the Week.
See that?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, good time. They go by so quickly, don't they?
You too.
Yeah.
Well, that was Courtney. That was awesome. Thanks again to John Tenney.
And John Tenney.
And thanks again to Courtney for having another, for our special guest tonight. We are going to close it out.
Special guest this coming Saturday night.
Saturday night, October 20th, Reverend Tim Shaw, John and Chip, and a surprise guest, which we will be announcing tomorrow on Facebook, so take a look for that.
Yes, and it's been confirmed. We're so happy about that.
On that note,
come see us live Saturday. We'll see you next Monday.
Thanks again. Keeping the spirits alive.
With Aaron Sagers of
Aaron Sagers with Paranormal Paparazzi next week. Thanks, guys.
Love to all.